Thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you having me.
That's awesome. So, how we usually start is I ask you, what's your name? How many kids do you have, and what do you do for a living?
Okay, my name is Kamar Martin, and I have 2 kids, and I am the baker and founder of a cookie called Quest.
Sick name.
Thank you.
Right off the bat, man. That's actually what got me to follow you. I'm like, this is so clever. And then I started following you. But like, let's hear it. How did you start the business?
So I had no desire to get into baking or cooking, or sorry, cookies. I've always loved cookies.
Yeah.
But I made the switch to a plant-based diet like 7 years ago,
Okay.
and everything on the market tasted terrible. And I was like, how hard could it be? It's just a cookie.
Yeah.
And then I was trying different recipes. I was like, these are all terrible. Like a cookie should be, I like soft cookies,
Yeah.
crispy around the edges, chewy, if anything. You could break it, put it back together. And I said, that's what I want. And I was going through recipes and nothing, I was getting close to what a cookie should taste like, but I didn't understand why it was so difficult. Then I started just adjusting ratios, removing things. Things had chickpeas and applesauce. I'm like, this is never allowed in a cookie. Why is this a thing? So then I was like, okay, let me do some batches, see what's working. And I finally got one that tasted like a cookie that I know and love, like a home-baked cookie. So I said, okay, I got to test this. I think it's good, but am I thinking it's good because I'm tired of the 20 batches I did before? So I tested it with some friends. I invited them over. I was like doing a huge spread of food. And I didn't want to tell them that the cookie I baked that they're going to get at the end, I baked it. So I said, okay, put it in a box, dressed it up, made it look like I went to a gourmet spot.
Cool.
And I gave it to them to go. I had some of them try it before they left. Like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, where can I get these? I'm like, oh, okay, I'll let you know. And then when they got home the next day, messages I'd ask, hey, how's the cookie? They're like, oh my God, it was so good. I shared it with this person. I'm like, okay, I have something pretty sound. And at that time, the pandemic just started. So I was unemployed and I was like, okay, I have a graphic design branding background. So I said, okay, usually most designers know, you got to have your portfolio, usually up to date with your latest work. And I said, okay, I'm doing these cookies. How do I make this a project? It has to have a cool name. I could think of a logo, all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make this like a entry into my portfolio, but at the same time, I think I have a viable little thing going on here. And I was actually away just before the pandemic in Atlanta. And I was like, okay, before this trip is over, I'm going to have a name. I just feel it.
Cool.
And I'm there in a restaurant and A Tribe Called Quest, Can I Kick It, comes on. And I'm waiting for my food and I'm like nodding. I was like, hold on a second. I think I got something. So I said, what about a cookie called Quest? I called my sister immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I think I got a name. She's like, what do you mean? Because I told her I'm going to have a name by the time I come back from this trip. And then when I called, she was just like, you don't possibly have a name. I'm like, I do. I go, can you hear it in the background? I was so excited. She was like, hear what? And I'm like, okay, they're playing A Tribe Called Quest. Can I Kick It? She's like, yeah, I know. You love that song. I said, now imagine a cookie called Quest. She's like, oh, I love it. I just hung up. I was like, I got it.
I hope you went on GoDaddy right away and bought
immediately.
The domain.
Instagram, all the socials, just trying to get like a sense of, okay, what's available? Is it too long of a name? Is it too wordy? But I'm like, I love the name. So
Totally.
Who cares? So from there, it was just like snowballed. And then I started doing deliveries during the pandemic. The whole social distancing thing. I was like in people's driveway, talking to them. I was doing all orders through DM.
Cool.
Like I knew I had to like set up a site and have it like have the proper channels of distributing cookies. But I was like, I'm still testing this out. I don't want to invest too much. I would try to be as lean as possible. But it was it just snowballed. And I think with everybody kind of just being stuck at home, and then there's a lot of like BLM and a lot of things happening in the media towards like police and blacks, and a lot of people fatally dying. And then there's this pandemic. There's just so much things going on.
Totally.
People for at least a moment took stock of like being present, being aware, feeling. So a lot of people started at-home businesses. People were supporting, and I just happened to fall right in the middle of that. And that, I think, helped get the word out quicker because everyone was on their screens. Everybody was
Locked
on
in.
devices,
Yeah.
and nobody could go anywhere. But I could bring the cookies to you.
Cool.
And that's pretty much how the genesis of it kind of came to be.
So how did you, first of all, why is it plant-based? Did something happen that you needed it to be
You know
plant-based?
what? I was paying attention to my diet just before all that. Like I realized when I ate meat, like red meat or chicken, I was getting tired of chicken.
Okay.
Like my background, I'm Jamaican, so my household is I grew up on meat.
Yeah.
And even my mom could tell you, like, oh, he'll eat Jamaican food, but it's like I had so much of it growing up, like I could take it or leave it,
Fair
right?
enough.
And not to say it was Jamaican food. I just found like meat in general just wasn't digesting properly.
Got
I
it.
I felt,
Yeah.
and then I said, okay, let me just explore eliminating it, not thinking going plant based or having a vegan diet or anything. And as I eliminated chicken, beef, um, turkey, and then eventually seafood. And then my friend sent me a documentary called What the Health. And I know some people out there have seen it.
Yeah.
And it gets down to a lot of, facts about the food we take in and how it makes us feel. And I was like, oh, this is speaking to me right now.
Cool.
And I just cut out meat, dairy altogether. And I figured, okay, I actually feel pretty good. I don't feel lethargic. All the things people say, like more energy, less brain fog,
Yeah.
all those things are true. But I just didn't like the idea of like waving around this title of, oh, I'm a this, I'm a vegan.
Sure.
When I know I'm not. I just my diet reflects one similar to a vegan diet. So I've noticed that carrying around certain titles could kind of be off-putting to people. And I would always tell people like do what works for you. If you want to have veggies 3 days out of the week and you want to have meat on just Fridays, do it. Doesn't matter. I'm figuring out what works for me. It just happens to be very similar or identical to a plant-based vegan diet. And I like the feeling, but I would never go around waving my finger at people. I was just eating meat a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So who am I don't want to be judgmental. And I found like people are really, really tied to this, vegan culture, which is great for them
Yeah.
if that's what works for you. But the assumption is made, oh, you're selling plant-based cookies. And I've done events where they've asked me, oh, will you come to the vigil at the slaughterhouse on Tuesday? And I'm like, is it that serious? Like, these are like hardcore
Yeah.
vegans, love the animals. I'm like, you could love animals and still be a decent person. Like, why is it only reserved for people who have to like wear this badge? Or
Got it.
I know, some of them are like really, really true to the core. There's levels to this vegan thing. And again, not knocking anybody that is one of those extremes, but it comes with a lot of positive and negative like connotations when you wear this kind of title of like, oh, I don't do this, or I don't eat meat, or how I find a lot of cases it's a lot of heavy judgment
Yeah.
on the people who don't eat meat. And I'm like, I'm not that person. So I'm finding even in my branding, I've done events and people will see like my banner will say vegan, cookies, and they'll look at me, they're like, ew, shaking their head. I'm just like, it's actually good cookies. I'm sorry that the word vegan offends you, but
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I tried this vegan cookie. I'm like, I know, and it tasted like this. And they're like, oh, you get it. I'm like, yeah, but mine aren't like that. So it's like it can invite people in, but it also invites the people who want to be defensive sometimes.
So what does a vegan cookie mean? Like, what is in your cookie, or what substitutes do you use?
Okay, so I don't use any milk, like dairy milk or butter.
Okay.
I use more plant-based butters, and I'll use like almond milk.
Cool.
Sometimes oat milk, depending on the recipe. But I found I've started with almond milk, and at the time it was more accessible. Oat milk's climbed up pretty quickly, so I wanted to rely on ingredients that I know I can get as often as I need. So I just stick to like plant-based butters as my, I guess you can say, my ingredient to keep the cookies moist.
Okay.
And I've tested various butters, but all plant-based butters and no use of animal byproduct.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, I have like so many questions.
All right, cool.
Like, I guess one, how did you know you wanted to bake cookies?
Okay. So I have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
So nothing's off the table.
All right.
We're talking cinnamon rolls,
Love it.
brownies. If it's baked, I want it. And I didn't know cookies would be the main thing. Like I was doing cinnamon rolls. Anything I felt like having is what I was experimenting with.
Sweet.
And I found that I was getting pretty close to what I was used to in terms of texture and flavor, moistness, all that stuff. So I was like, okay, cookies are rather easy because if anybody knows me, I love cookies. So that's not a stretch for me to now be doing cookies. So um cookies for me was just natural. Like you can get so creative with different flavors. And I just wanted a chocolate chip cookie. And once I had
Classic.
that, I was good. So
Okay. So you just said one day I want to start baking cookies, and then you had this party, you started giving them out. People love it.
mhm.
This is now your full-time gig.
So I was still looking for work,
Okay.
right? Because realistically, I have bills like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I have had experience doing like starting like small ventures, like projects, freelance design. So I
Cool.
knew things will come in waves. And if I'm just starting to become this entrepreneur or baker, which I'm still not even used to saying because I kind of fell into this. And I know people will be like, oh, but you do such a good job. You're a baker. I'm not going to knock the people who went to school for this that are in culinary. I just happen to, it's cookies and I do it really well. So if you want to give me the baker title, I'll take it, but I don't try to lead with it so much. But yeah, I didn't know. It was just sheer timing, these are selling, it's putting money in my pocket. Um, I'm now in the conversation or applying for, grants because I registered the business, it's incorporated. So I'm like, okay, I have those things all set up. So I could now do that at my own time, but still apply for, I'd want to manage both, have like, my full time doing design because I love branding. I love designing, identities, logos. I love doing website design and development. I love user experience design, interaction. Those things always appeal to me. So in a perfect scenario, I'd love to do both, but I ended up doing all that just for my brand because employers weren't looking at me. I was applying to roles, nothing was biting. And it was weird because I was so used to getting poached from other companies or headhunters looking me up and getting an interview on the fly, getting offers, rejecting offers, sitting quite
Yeah.
comfortably and like, oh, if I want a job, I could change whenever I want. But that wasn't reality after a while when got let go from my job. And then it's just like, okay, I'll get another job. But in the meantime, let me keep active.
What did you do?
So I was working as a UX designer, so user
Oh,
experience
cool.
designer. So I was doing that for a company. And I was there for about almost just shy of 2 years. But prior to that, I was doing the same thing at another company.
Good for you.
So I had a steady streak of being in the design space at corporations and tech firms and startups. So I had a good range of the different types of spaces and industries. So I didn't doubt like, oh, I've done it for, let's say, the medical field for so long, so now I can't get out of it. I have a pretty good range or resume that I thought, hey, getting a job wouldn't be a problem. I can do that and do my thing on the side, and then I'll be a millionaire and everything will be
Yeah.
perfect.
Attaboy.
And that wasn't the case. I'm very far from a millionaire, but it's just a different route to get to that type of goal. So yeah, if it was I guess it's just kind of like things aligning in a way. This is the more, I would say, tougher route. So if I were to give anybody advice, it's like, hey, try to have something stable until your thing starts to bubble up where you can now trade that off and focus on it. But for me, it's like, wasn't the route I would have planned, but it's still rewarding. Like I get to do interviews like this,
Yeah.
I get to be on TV and for like other stations and other types of like interactions with people, which is cool. I've been able to take the brand to the US to do shows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it's just kind of it's almost like touring like a little cookie rock star, I
Yeah.
feel, because I'll go to, let's say, Chicago to do an event. And it's like, oh, I saw you online. And I'm kind of like, oh, little old me, you saw online? Okay, I appreciate that. And they're like, oh, yeah, I bought your cookies. I'm like, okay, all the way from Chicago. That's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah. So, and I'll get messages like, hey, when are you coming back? And I'm like, oh, okay, I feel a little important. People are digging these cookies. This is cool. So,
I'm going to take you back. So
yeah.
when you first started, like how much of an initial like startup costs did you have? Like what does it take to open up a cookie business in the
So
beginning?
I'll be very transparent. So the mixer is my mom's,
Okay.
which I still use today.
Amazing.
So the mixer was just sitting at my mom's place, and I was like, I've never used this, but I noticed my mom never really used it. I'm like, hey, let me take this off your hands. I'm gonna need this. And then I bought like a commercial style oven from Costco,
Okay.
right? That plugs into a regular outlet. And then everything else is just buying stuff from either wholesale or Walmart or like your flour, your sugars. And this at the time I started off, which I do partly from my kitchen at home, but then I also rent out a kitchen when I got to do larger orders
Got
and
it.
from like my retail partners. So to keep costs manageable, all my online orders for the most part I'll do bake at home,
Yep.
ship them out, and then so the cost is like you can go as expensive as you want. If I wanted to outfit my kitchen to be like a commercial kitchen and get all the necessary like bylaws and permits, I could do that. But the goal isn't to be that isn't the main thing. I'd like to have a space, a dedicated space that I can actually bake out of consistently, which I have because I rent out a space when I need to with larger orders. So your
Cool.
costs could really be you can start for a couple $100, right? And if
Cool.
you have all these, if you have the skill to like, or the patience to hop online and build a site, get a template, spend next to nothing, chat GPT, write up your content,
Yeah.
take some cool pictures. I think for me, my costs were super low to start because I have the background in building a brand identity, taking product photography or product photos,
Yeah.
and I can make it look as if like, oh, there's a whole team behind this when really it's like me, my apron, my laptop.
Yeah.
I'm wearing so many hats like most entrepreneurs are. So I'm not doing anything new, but I think there's so many tools out there that can make you look professional.
Cool.
So I would say a couple $100 to get you started.
So how did you even get your customers? Like I feel like that's the hardest part about like operating a business is getting those customers.
It is, it can be hard for sure because I think the expectation is people will probably look at me and be like, oh, he's doing so well and all these things. Like every day is just like, okay, it's new. It's like not everybody isn't ordering cookies every day,
Yeah.
right? And so what helps get customers is you got to be prepared to lead with amazing service, over deliver.
Okay.
Like if anybody orders from me, they know generally they get an extra cookie. They
Got
get a
it.
cookie they never tried
Cool.
just so they can get introduced to the
I like
brand.
that.
If I know it's your birthday and you've posted it on Instagram and I have your address, you might get a box of cookies that you didn't even ask
Oh,
for.
that's cool, dude.
And to me, those things, I've always remembered how people made me feel, less about the actual transaction. So I know it sounds cliche, don't think about the money, but you got bills, so you got to think about the money. But lead with having a service that people are going to talk about.
Cool.
So getting customers is a mixture of you got to get out there, you got to do shows, you got to do events that you feel you got to know who you're talking to. So for me, people who have plant-based vegan diets that are finding it hard to find really good quality baked goods is like one avenue. And then there are people who are just love treats like myself or like anybody and they want to try something new. And then there's people who are like diehard hip hop fans that are drawn to the name.
Yeah.
So once you know who you're talking to or who your potential customer can be, just going where they are, right? So if they're at, the beer fest, see, can I get a booth there? Can I give out some samples there? And sometimes it's not so much about going through the regular channels. I might just have to pull up on the curb at the entrance and just give out cookies with my branding on it.
I love it.
So a lot of times you can go the traditional route, but a lot of times for me, it's like, I rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
I like it.
So if I know that, hey, a big act is coming into town, or I know the big event going on, or something where I know there's a crowd that could potentially be there, I might have to just get up early that day, bake some cookies. And I might be going to the same event, but I might have to invest maybe the first hour handing out cookies with my logo on it and contact info. It's like that old school, like handing out flyers at the end of a party. Same approach.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of relying on like those skills you've seen some really real troopers and hustlers do I got to get out there.
Yeah.
There's no manual for it. I guess depending on who you ask, but for me, it's like trial and error.
Got it. So do you have like a budget of how much cookies in like promo you would give or you can afford to give a month?
For sure. It's a mix because I can't say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
And at this stage now, the opportunity truly has to align. So people have asked, oh, I'm doing an event. Can I get 700 cookies? 700 cookies for an event that isn't established, that I'm taking a chance on, doesn't make financial sense for me right now.
100%.
Right. But if it's something where you want to buy it at cost, and maybe I can actually be there and set up and actually have full representation and control and have interaction and meet people, that might be worth it if you tell me, hey, we're expecting 1,500 people. So I have a budget, but it's at the same time, it's very small in terms of how much I'm prepared to. I'm prepared to go beyond it if the opportunity is truly there.
Cool.
But I do find people sell a very, very mean game on how great their thing is there's going to be. I'm like, okay, well, you're doing this event. I think you can afford to budget for some cookies.
Yeah.
So a lot of times just reading through the smoke, but most times at this stage, I can weed those things out really, really easy. And it's different. It's also relationship building. So for example, if I know someone is directly or they've actually purchased cookies from me and we have some sort of rapport and they know what I'm doing and I know what they're doing, they may not even have to ask me. I can just say, hey, I know you're doing this. Can I ship like a few dozen cookies? Because I know you're going to have a spread. And they're like, wow.
Cool.
Right? Because I also want to support what other people are doing. It's not just, hey, point all the opportunities at me and I'll determine what works for me. No, it's like, okay, people could probably attest to this. Like they've seen cookies show up or they were gifted cookies without their knowledge or them knowing because I appreciate what they're doing.
Cool.
And I figured something like that, I'm not keeping tabs on it, but I'm sure I'll be rewarded down the line, whether it be, hey, we saw this at an event. Can we order like 1,200? And that's happened before.
That's sick.
Right. I've had to look at my phone a few times. I'm like, is this spam? These spam bots are really good because it has me convinced that this is a real opportunity, and it actually is. So I just keep feeding that because I do believe, like, in a sense of karma and lead by doing good as best as you can. We're not all perfect. We're all flawed.
100%.
But at least if I could just take that extra step. Like I just had a DM last night with a customer that I know is on sick leave for the next like several weeks. I'm like, man, you're gonna be bored. I gotta send you some cookies. Where are you living now? And she was like, I know you will. And I'm not telling you my address. I'm trying to keep my weight down. And I'm like, oh well, let me just go into my info and see when she's ordered last. And whoever's at the address is gonna get cookies.
Totally.
So I enjoyed the element of surprise. I like putting smiles on people's faces. I think it's like the natural dad instinct, like in us, like, oh, we want to see people happy, you know? And I just happen to be in a business that cookies create, at least what I've learned, a sense of this presence. Like you can just sit down and have a chat with a friend, like much like a coffee, you know, forces you to sit down and, you know, have something, you know, like, oh my God, this is so good. And by the way, did I tell you about the such and such? Like it's a good part of the conversation and connection. So I like playing a part in that because I grew up around a lot of bodies, like a household that was always busy. So I like the idea that, hey, this could actually bring people together. Not my intent, but I like how it unfolds.
Do you have kids? You do have kids?
Yes.
Did you have kids when you started the business?
Yeah. So my kids are right now 8 and 11.
Okay.
And when this started like 5 years ago, we're talking, my youngest was, my math was 3.
Yeah.
And then my son was like 7.
Yeah.
Was that right?
6, 7.
6, 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've seen the business. They grew up with the business technically.
Yeah.
Right. Which has led to now them helping out every so often, you know, coming along to like a pop-up. My daughter, funny story, like she goes to the school and some of the teachers obviously over the years have caught wind that I have cookies. So they've ordered cookies. They rave about the cookies. And then some of the kids in her class are like, oh, your dad bakes cookies. I want to buy one.
That's nice.
And my daughter would be like, so my friend wants to buy cookies. And I go, did you tell her how much? Because I have cookies like in a mini bag.
Yeah.
And she's like, I told her it's a $10 and plus two. And I'm like, okay, so this is good math. You're
Okay.
right. It is $12. And she's just like, yeah, she's going to give me the money tomorrow. I'm like, okay, first of all, we're not taking anybody's money. Like, what we can do is we'll give her parents the website that they can order. And I'm just like, I love the idea that my daughter is already kind of
Promoting
wired
you.
in, right? Like, she'll come home with like stuff written down. Someone says they want this amount of cookies, and I'm like, okay, you're taking the manual orders. This is cool. But I'm mindful of like, school rules
Yeah.
and bringing things that may contain nuts and all that. So I'm like, I appreciate it. But yeah, they've been involved and a part of it from the beginning. They were a part of the test batches,
There you go.
trying things, but they're never going to say no, but they will give me their honest opinion. So if a cookie's good or bad before it hits the market, they've already been able to vet it and tell me,
Sweet.
oh no, they're really good with it. So I'm fortunate to have that.
When you started your company,
Mhm.
how hard was it to pivot? Like you go from being employed by somebody to usually when you start a business, you're spending more, right,
Mhm.
to get it set up. So like, how did you manage that
Um,
financially?
you know what? I guess because the idea of the business in my mind was always going to be something on the side.
Okay.
So it was only going to go as far as I wanted it to go.
Okay.
Right. It's like financially, like, you're working, you're used to a steady check. You're, I mean, I had some money saved. So the idea wasn't to take that money and then start a business.
Okay.
But one of the challenges was like, okay, this is going to take some time to actually grow into something. So I have to be very, very particular on what I spend and how much of it is going to go towards the business. I was fortunate enough that the business was, an order would go out or come in. I can bake it, make some money off the order, put it aside, and then keep building.
Got it.
So it's just literally brick by brick, but it was a challenge because how do you go from like making like near like a 6-figure salary annually to not even close to that?
Sure.
Right. So a lot of it is like, okay, I can't buy the shoes that I want.
Yeah.
I love sneakers. It's like I got to move a little more cautiously. There are children, so obviously they come first. So, yeah, it's tough. I don't want to curse, but it's tough as shit.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not gonna say that it's easy. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but you just lead with good intentions. You try your best. Like every day is a grind.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah.
Is it easier now? Like, are you able to stay afloat?
I am staying afloat, yes, but it doesn't feel easy
Okay.
because I am on most days a one-man shop.
Okay.
Right. And I've taken a lot of good advice from business advisors saying, you have a viable business when you can step away from it and it runs. And I can't step away from it right now and it run. Right. It still requires my activity daily for it to actually keep going. Now I'm working towards that. So the goal is to have a space, be able to employ people, continue to up like my retail orders, increase my online presence, continue to grow my existing client base. So a combination of all those things is going to put me in a position where, okay, I have somebody that can manage this part. I have someone that can take over the social media. It's it. I'm not gonna say the people out there are making it look easy, but they do a good job of really telling a story that you just do these 3 things and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, the 3 things on top of the 30 you got to do before the 3,
Yeah.
that's different. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of that until I took the step into this. Like I went in both feet in and I'm like, holy, every day I gotta like make sure this is intact. Okay. How am I on supplies? Okay, cool. Any orders gotta go out. All right, cool. What are the shipping rates now?
Yeah.
At one point I couldn't ship across Canada because the rates were killing me.
What are you using?
So I'm using a third party that combines all the shipping rates. So from Purelator, UPS, Canada
What's it
Post.
called?
This one is web ship through InExpress.
I use Stallion Express.
Stallion. So they don't do food.
Oh.
Yeah, one of them doesn't do food. I've been introduced to them.
Oh, damn. I didn't know there was restrictions like that.
Yeah. So some of them, as cheap and as great as some of them are, if it's food, they won't do it. Maybe it's changed, but I'm familiar with Stallion.
Interesting.
I'm familiar with quite a few taking calls,
Cool.
and they're like, "Oh, what do you do? Cookies? Oh, we don't do that."
Damn.
So for me, it's like getting a reliable service that can ship like next 1 to 2 days,
Of course.
and then that cost is way different than like a week.
Yeah.
So then it has me now thinking, okay, I didn't want to do preservatives in the cookies, but is there a healthy preservative that may not have the cookies last for like 8 years, but maybe 3 months?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Is
and
there?
there are some options, but it's then now doing the R&D. It's like again me making the calls, carving out that time. Okay, what do you need? So I've looked into some really good options that still fall under the, you know, I want to say organic, natural
Yeah.
preservatives, probably the best
Cool.
way to say it, that still honor the integrity of the product without changing the flavor, the texture, things like that. So in time, but it has to be, I have to put some really realistic times around it, because if I don't prioritize those things happening, then there's like lost
Fair
opportunity.
enough.
So it's a juggling act. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you know with
Yeah.
what you're doing here, it's like it's not just one thing. So yeah,
How is the dynamic of like starting your business and having children?
it's great, but I'm not sure how you are, but when I get into work mode, I'm trying to like knock it out. I'm trying to get it done,
Yeah.
and then to kind of have like little people tugging on you. Hey, you have to like be mindful of, hey, I don't want to be that dad that just disappears and only pops up when it's fun.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to time block.
Okay.
Okay, I'm baking between this time to this time. Leaves me enough time to grab the kids, bring them home, hang out for a bit. You know, if they want to help out a little bit, okay, cool. So by the time I'm being dad, I've already done most of my baking.
Cool.
So I've had to learn that because I didn't want them to feel like, oh, I don't want to bug daddy, he's busy. And it just turns into, okay, I won't bug him at all. And then like you're just missing out on just cool stuff, like
Yeah.
what they drew or what they did at school that day. So that's why it's good to get up as early as you can, get your day started. So then when you got to attend to them, they don't feel that neglect or, oh, I don't want to bother daddy. You know, a lot of things could be said without being said,
Sure.
you know, so I'm mindful of that. So I feel I do a good job. Including them has been key. I know not all businesses or entrepreneurs out there can include their kids in whatever the business might be, but if you can, try it. You know, they'll surprise you.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll help her.
Trust me. I appreciate it so much, and I'm always talking to them about, okay, no pressure if you want to eventually take this over one day.
Yeah.
But, you know, I appreciate your help. I actually pay them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I've paid them. They may think it's a lot of money, but I'm just like, oh, here's $20 for, you know, helping out last week. And then they're running for their wallet. They're putting their money in. They're like, okay, I'm going to get the Pokemon cards. They've already spent it
Before it came. They're budgeting.
Yeah. And I try to tell them, okay, if you're going to buy that, just put aside maybe, you know, $10,
Yeah.
you know, and then they're like, why? You know, I want to get this and that. And it's funny to hear them just already, you know, to them, I'm trying to teach them the concept. So I don't pay them right away. I say you get paid every 2 weeks. That's how it is in the real world. So the week leading up to pay week, technically, they're like, are we getting paid this week? And I'm like, you in fact are, right? It's on Friday. And I have to make sure, okay, payrolls and tax. Okay,
Totally.
here we go. Because my daughter's relentless. She's the younger one, but she's the boss.
Yeah.
Like she'll be like, I'm gonna find out if we're getting paid today.
HR.
Yeah. And I can hear her stomping down. She's just like, so you said today we're gonna get paid. And I'm like, listen, I have it, you know, please, you will get it. So it's cool in that regard.
That's cool. Is it like anything different of like how you're raised and how you're raising your kids now?
You know what? It's a good question. I've always had support. Like my mom has always been like, you're creative, you do these amazing things, you know, go do it type of thing. My dad, for the most part, he definitely get the paper, go to
Yeah.
school, go to university. I didn't go to university, but that's what he was preaching, right? So, but at the same time, he has an entrepreneur background as well. So the mix of the two, the support is there. One might be more stricter than the other, but the support is definitely there. And I grew up in a household where I don't know if you experienced this, where we didn't really say "I love yous" daily. We just showed it,
Yeah.
right? You knew your parents loved you, or you knew your siblings loved you, but we didn't go around. We didn't end conversations or greet people with like, "Oh, I love you," right? And I do find that I'm more action oriented, so I will demonstrate those things. But my kids have probably taught me more to say it
Cool.
because that's probably the difference in not hearing it as a child. Not don't get me wrong, I did not feel any less loved,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but kids are different. Some kids are different, and I want them to express it, know it exists, and know they could also express it too. So the difference would probably be my parents probably led by more action, and I'm leading with action with my kids, but also verbally expressing it too,
Yeah.
just so they have, I feel, all the tools or enough tools to now know what love is and feels like, and it's okay to express it. And occasionally, I'll just hear my daughter say, "Yeah, I love you." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I love you too."
Yeah.
All right. So it's those are probably the biggest differences.
Was like parenthood what you thought it would be?
No, no, I thought I so my brothers also had I have nieces and nephews, so my brothers have kids, and I was always admired by my brothers, like being present,
Yeah.
having their kids. I was like, oh, I want to be able to do that, like when my brother would like drive with like my niece by himself in the car, like he was coming to visit. I'm like, man, what if she started crying? Like, what are you gonna do? You gonna pull over? Like that's going on in my mind.
Yeah.
But just to see them just kind of just be a dad, like little things like that. And I saw that at a young age because they had kids young. And then I thought, like, yeah, I'll be a cool dad. We'll do fun things. I only thought of all the fun,
Yeah.
right? But when you actually now have a child and you realize, okay, this crying at 2 a.m., you got to do something about it. Is that you walking with baby around the house because she doesn't like to be put down? That stuff, and that each baby is unique. Each kid's unique. My daughter, she didn't take like a soother, right? She didn't want any of that. So, but she loved being held. So if she was any discomfort, you're walking around the house with her until she fell asleep. My son, he still had a soother till he was like 5,
Yeah.
right? So you just give the soother and he's good. So it's constantly adjusting to knowing your kid and knowing what works. You could be guided by, parents and what or what other friends that have kids, but I totally was focused on the fun,
That's it.
the outfits, the matching
Yeah.
shoes, the cool places you're gonna go, and that stuff happens. But because you've dealt with all the real parenting stuff, you forget about, when you're out, let's say at the grocery store, and someone's like, "Oh my God, you and your kids look so great." You're just like, these kids pissed me right off before we came in here. You don't even know, but thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So you can't even be in a position to receive all the, "Oh my God, such a cool dad." I was like, yeah, but man, you should have seen an hour ago. I didn't know if we were gonna make it. Right? So the things that I thought were that I've seen, I was like, oh yeah, these are cool. This is nice. I like seeing this dad or this family out. They're having a good time. But now I know it probably took forever to get out the door.
Yep.
Someone was crying. Someone forgot something.
100%.
So I definitely had a very rude awakening that is the parenting side.
How was like logistics of like dropping off, who's making lunch, who's making dinner, like how were roles assigned?
I think it was rather natural because I'm like, I just jump into gear.
Cool.
Like I don't have to be told, hey, do this, do this, do this. It's more of like, okay, if I'm up, let me get breakfast started, right? Or, okay, lunch is already covered. Mom has that sorted out. Okay, cool. It's, I think just not waiting to be told, just going and doing what you feel is needed. And then, okay, you've already packed the lunch. Okay, cool, no problem. I'll stash that away.
Cool.
So there's always something to do. So if you find yourself not doing anything, give yourself a job.
All right. Look, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yes.
That's
so
it.
there's something to be done. It's just like, okay. So I think it's kind of happened naturally from my experience.
Okay.
But I could see where someone who maybe isn't wired like that, it constantly being like a struggle or feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm being told I'm not doing enough. And I'm for one, I don't want to ever be told that.
Yeah.
So let me just get ahead of it. If that means I gotta get up a little early and get something started, I'll do that.
Who did bedtime?
I think it was mixed.
Yeah.
I think it was a mix. Whoever, probably, if I'm thinking back to the routine, probably more mom.
Okay.
More mom would probably do the routine. Mom's like a night owl, so kids always want to stay up.
Totally.
So I think they probably adopted more of her style of going to bed later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say mom is more the nighttime routine.
Did you guys live like in a condo, a house? Like, what was space like?
First space was a condo, funny enough. Yeah. Condo, one in a den, and then quickly outgrew that, not knowing we were going to have a second.
Okay.
But just knowing, hey, it's a starter space.
Yeah.
And the next spot would be like a home.
Cool.
And yeah, so funny you say that. Yeah, condo for sure.
Yeah. It's like us too. We live in a condo, so I can understand the challenges that come with living in a small space and having to like raise kids.
Yeah. Like if there's any plans to have a second, okay, yeah, you may know a bigger space or a bigger condo, or just as that kid is getting bigger, it's just going to be like, okay, you're buying us time. But, given obviously today's market, you're like, you might be 16 in a den. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How much did having two kids change your life? And like, how did even that dynamic work too?
Having two kids. So I guess for me, having the first, which was my son, I guess as a dad, you're trying to look to see so many similarities in yourself. And if they do jump out at you, you're like, okay, I know what that looks like, and I know what I can almost navigate it so much so where I know what he may want to do, but it's not fair because he's still his own person. So for me, it was that dynamic was like, okay, he really is a mama's boy, right? I got to let go of the fact that, I got my son and, we're going to do all the things. I'm just like, no, he is a true mama's boy, probably like how I was.
Yeah.
So I could relate to that. And then when my daughter came, ironically, I wasn't working. So I was staying home during like that. I got more time to stay at home with her to kind of see her grow up in those first years of her being a baby. So our bond is different. And she's like a daddy's girl.
Girl, that is the best thing ever.
And listen, anybody watching this, don't scold me. We do have favorites.
Hey.
Okay. And I'm just saying, my daughter is so self-aware. Like as young as she is, she kind of comes with this presence, this self-awareness that's like beyond her years. And I'm just like, I assume that just comes with the like a nurturing spirit that women have naturally. Then combined with the self-awareness, like she's like my road dog.
That's cool.
Right. And she wants to go places with me. Like she probably wanted to come here today if I just didn't sneak out on her.
Yeah.
Right. But she is very much a daddy's girl. So the dynamic that I got to experience was, every guy who has a son feels they see themselves with their son, but then your son could quickly remind you that, hey, I belong to mom and she's my favorite and it's cool. But they do carry two different, very distinct personalities, but they also are best friends and their worst enemy when they want to.
I heard.
So I'm at the stage right now where I just let them sort it out. Right. And even if I know it's going to lead to maybe a wrestling match or a couple, I could just count it down like someone's going to cry in about 10 seconds. And it happens like clockwork. So
that's all right. So you have two kids.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when too much risk in your business is too much?
If So if we say risk, we're talking, I also look at it as maybe time,
Okay.
because I won't ever put myself in a financial position where like I've compromised my kids because I've taken savings and I've poured it all into this event or opportunity. So I would say more so if I was losing time with them. I know entrepreneurship hours are quite different than the traditional 9 to 5. And when their day is done and they're winding down, I could still very well be knee deep in what I got to do.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen from time to time. Like if I have to do an event that's in the night, or if I have to do an event that might be all weekend, I try to make sure that I balance that out with, okay, the next week, it's all them. We're going to have a good time. I'll take them somewhere or hook up with my other friends who have kids, and we'll do something. Because ironically enough, I have like half my friends that are entrepreneurs, the other half work traditional hours or work for a company. So some of them get it. Good, I'd say all of them get it. So when there's an opportunity for us to all connect, and we get to see each other and the kids get to see each other, so it's creating those opportunities where I feel kids want to know that they're not lost. They're not, being prioritized less than something else, because in their world they matter the most, which they should.
Sure.
And it's constantly going to be a challenge. I'm not going to say anybody. Some people might say they haven't mastered. I don't think it's something you master. I think it's something you just work on all the time, and hopefully, you'll know it when your kids. You get to see those smiles. You get to see, hey, we want to do this next. When they know they still want to be around dad and do things with dad, that's when you know, okay, I'm doing a decent job. They still want to hang. They still want to do
Yeah.
things. So.
Do you get like support from your parents in terms of looking after the kids or anything like that?
So funny enough, my dad's not in the picture. My mom, 100%.
Cool.
My mom is constantly wanting to see them, and which is amazing.
Do you guys live close to each other?
No, they're in Markham.
Okay.
My mom's in Markham. I'm in Mississauga.
All right.
So
We're neighbors almost.
Oh, really?
I'm in Etobicoke.
Okay, yeah. But I've always historically gone to visit my mom pretty much every weekend.
Sweet.
So my kids have always been used to that. They love sleeping over grandma's place. They love getting spoiled.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
I don't blame it.
Yeah.
So my mom is always, and funny enough, my mom's a twin.
Oh,
So my
okay.
aunt, who also lives with my mom and my family, they basically get two grandmothers.
Cool.
Right? They identical twins, both spoiling
That's
them.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I've grown up around that. So I've always used to trick my friends, like, if my aunt was home, my mom wasn't, they think they were talking to my mom.
Or get your aunt to sign like when you do bad in school and you have to like sign
know
a report
what?
card, man.
See, I was a goody two shoes.
Oh yeah,
right?
good.
I didn't get into trouble in school for the mere fact that I fear
Yeah.
my mom, and my dad at the time so much that trouble was worse than any sort of trouble school was gonna give
Fair
me.
enough.
So let me just be okay in school. So yeah.
Oh man, I have to like forge report cards and stuff.
I know those ones.
Hey,
I know those.
Adobe came in clutch. Telling you.
I know those kids. Those kids were, you know what? To some degree, I kind of wish I was like those kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Those kids actually were taking risks early on with no regard that I was like, man, I think I played a little too safe. Right?
That's good.
I think
Good.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So your cookies, man, like what are your top sellers, would you say?
Oh, wow. So I launched with chocolate chip, cookies and cream, and check the rind, which is lemon. And cookies and cream was like the first couple of years, the number one go-to cookie. And then just as of last year, the lemon was always like in the running. And I know lemon's hit and miss, people
Yeah.
with citrus, but I think for the most part, people gave it a chance
Cool.
and they've fallen in love with it. So it's probably the number one most popular cookie.
Damn.
And last year it held that title. Like
Okay.
a year ended, I looked at the numbers. I'm like, wow, this cookie came out number one this year. I'm not surprised, but cookies and cream was holding on to that number one spot for a while. And then I try to have like rotating seasonal specialty cookies that will pop in. Like last month, February, I had the red velvet,
Sweet.
and that does really well in February. And then as of recently, which I just gifted you, was the cheesecake cookie.
Awesome, dude.
And that to me has probably been fun to bake.
Okay.
It's been 3 years in the making. I just couldn't source. I didn't know how I was gonna like package it because everything becomes individually wrapped.
I see what you mean.
So if people took it out, it's one big mess.
Got it.
And so I said, you know what? I made it just recently for a pop-up that I did. I was like, you know what? Let me try it. Like I'm sitting on this idea. I want to see how it actually does. And it did really well.
Sweet.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to promote it to the menu, and I can only do it in a way where I can deliver it locally, where it doesn't require serious packaging.
Makes sense.
So as people start to have that, it is probably going to be their new favorite cookie.
Cool, man.
So yeah.
Question, and I ask this to every baking business. Why do you use the sprinkle balls versus the sprinkles, the traditional sprinkles?
So I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a thing.
It's apparently a thing. It
is a thing.
Now there are not all sprinkles are the same.
Okay.
So from my experience, I'm not a huge sprinkle person.
I'm Mr. Sprinkle person.
And I should have packed because I was supposed to do it. So the thing is with sprinkles, I found is the quality of the sprinkle.
Okay.
And I probably want to suspect that, I'm just taking a guess out there, so all the sprinkle ambassadors don't kill me.
Yeah.
That the ball sprinkles may be better quality in terms of sprinkle versus the other ones. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I kind of went with aesthetics more than anything.
Okay.
Like what looks good when it's on the cookie.
Okay.
And so I've leaned towards the ball.
Okay.
And occasionally I've had like a cookie or two where I've had the other sprinkle. I just didn't like how it looked on the cookie.
Got it.
That's just me.
For me, man, it was like the sprinkle balls, like made a crunch in your teeth that I didn't like.
Oh.
Wasn't because they're, I don't know, so many of them. Whereas the traditional sprinkles just hit differently, man. And you know, like the Simpsons and like Hawaiian donuts.
Wow.
I used to eat sprinkles like with a spoon, man.
You sound very intense when it comes to the sprinkles.
Yeah, man. So maybe we got to do it like a Daddy Day Club edition
for
cookie
sure.
one day, and we do the traditional sprinkles.
For sure, I'm for it.
But there are some because our daughter, my wife buys like these good quality sprinkles for her. I don't know if it's to do with coloring or whatever the case, but they're I guess a little bit healthier than like the ones you get at Bulk Barn or whatever.
Okay.
So there are a lot of sprinkle companies, but there's donuts that used to do I think Tim Hortons, it was like the balls, and it was just, I don't know, man, it wasn't for me.
You know what? When I was sourcing sprinkles, that's when I started to realize the divide in what people preferred or liked one more than the other. I was just trying to source quality sprinkles.
Cool.
Right. And what I ended up getting, I was happy with. And then it was more so the look. So I don't want to gross anybody out, but when I didn't use the ball sprinkles, those other sprinkles, they kind of looked like little worms on the cookie.
Okay.
I couldn't move past I don't know if something's really growing on these cookies.
Yeah.
So that was my preference.
Got it.
But teach his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider making a cookie that like uses, let's say, no artificial flavor / color?
You know what? I would for sure. It's also having access,
Got
right?
it.
Like I know there's very big positions on like food colorings and dyes and stuff. And I've had many people advise, oh, you should use, beet juice if you want it to be red.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'll explore that, but I got to look at the cost.
Sure.
I'm also a business at the end of the day.
Totally.
So a lot of times, in some cases I've explored, let's say, not using dyes and using other like ways to color the cookie, and the cost has gone through the roof.
Interesting.
So where it's not even doesn't make sense. So I did use dyes for the red velvet, which is common
in all
right?
red velvet
but
cookies.
most, if not, that's probably the only cookie on the menu that I've had recently that has a dye. But all the other ones, I just try to. I'm mindful of it, so I don't try to have a full lineup of like arrangement of colors.
Totally.
I just try to have like really good cookies that don't need that. But if it's on theme with something, sometimes I can't resist. Like I had like a Killer Bee cookie, which is like a nod to Wu-Tang, which was like black and yellow.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I don't want the dye police to come after me,
Yeah.
but this cookie looks dope. I gotta use it,
Yeah.
right? But for the most part, that'll just be rotating. Anything that's standard on the menu would be dye free. Yeah,
Ginger cookies are really good too.
I have that
Those are dope.
every holiday for that.
Cool.
Yeah, my ginger spice does well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graham, what are we at with time? So 5 minutes? Quick maths.
Mhm.
What's the future of a cookie called Quest?
So I definitely want to have a cookie cafe.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I want it to double as a production space to do all my orders, online, retail, the whole bit. And I'd love to have a spot, like a storefront
Yeah.
side of it that people could come in, pick up their cookies, and kind of be immersed into like I call it like a hip hop museum.
Sick.
Right. I've been to a lot of shows, like I've been to the Jay-Z exhibit in Brooklyn. I've seen some really, really good installations. The AGO has one running right now.
Cool.
That just like, wow, hip hop really doesn't really get its shine in terms of its contributions to culture and
Yeah.
fashion, aside the music, right? But why are we wearing Jordans? Why are we wearing the things we wear, Yankee fitted,
Yeah.
things like that? Like these things all have an origin story.
Of course.
I'd love to kind of have a spot that would reflect some of that, where people could come in and almost be like, oh, wow, they changed it up. They got a new exhibit, technically, of like artifacts from like big gold chains, the origin story behind it. People can play vinyl records
That'd
while
be
they're in
dope.
there. Yeah. And have like old school music videos playing on the wall.
That's crazy.
Right.
I
So
like
people
it. That's
get
a
a
vibe.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love for that to be, it doesn't have to be big, just like, you come grab a coffee, grab a cookie. If you want to stay, you want to work, you want to grab your cookie and go, that's cool.
I feel like Port Credit would be a good place. I don't know.
So location is one of my I think about every day.
Yeah.
Port Credit comes to mind.
Like downtown obviously would be amazing, but like rent and just uncertainty with buildings going up and all that.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been more drawn to doing it outside of the city
Okay.
because I feel those communities are a little underserved. And with people kind of working remotely, not having to travel in the city,
Yeah.
I love the idea that you can be in a cool vibe without having to go far from your home.
Cool.
And if I can do something just outside of this, like outside of Toronto, like Durham region, even like, Burlington, those areas, I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay.
Right. And I've done events throughout those communities to kind of see like, oh, there's a really, really big underserved community of people that really like what I'm doing, that order cookies, that are always asking when are you going to be when's your next event?
Cool.
So I think I'm on to something, but I'm not going to kid you. I know we're going through this whole tariff thing in the US,
Yeah.
but I get a really, really strong response from the US. And I think it's based
Oh.
off of sheer numbers.
How do they find like that the fact that they order from a Canadian company to buy cookies is astonishing.
I think because I've done events in their city.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So New York, Chicago, for sure. I did LA once, and it's actually held some pretty good connections with the people there
Cool.
that have ordered in bulk sometimes. And again, it's just like, okay, I'm grateful that they're paying in US dollars because
Yeah.
the shipping can be pretty.
Do you do Shopify?
Yeah.
I did not know that they take percentage off you in US currency. So whenever a US company buys from you, they're charging you 2%.
Really?
Yeah, I had to do a double take the other day. Like what? So they're taking their normal 2.8%
Yeah.
plus 30 cents plus 2% for USD.
Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had to do like
You had to do some little price adjustment.
geez, man.
Oh, wow.
It's hard having a business, dude.
Telling you,
It
like,
just doesn't equal the work and the time and everything. There's just never a fair trade-off.
yeah, it's like people. I admire the fact that people are taking that leap and they've taken that chance on themselves.
Yeah.
But there also has to be, people need to start speaking like in these conversations of like the transparency.
100%.
It is not as glamorous as it's projected to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's more of the struggle stories. Not every business is going to do well.
Yeah.
And maybe if there were more of a dialogue, more transparent conversation around like, okay, how did you get started? Or
Yeah.
like you said, like
Yeah.
what was it costing you to start? And things like shipping, you know.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people are going to tell you that they, you know, oh, you know, my partner basically loaned me $50,000 and here we are up and running.
Totally.
And I'm not saying you got to divulge all the numbers and the personal information, but some people do a really good job creating a narrative that's just like, I woke up one day and I just decided I'm going to bake cookies.
Yeah.
And here I am in my 80,000 square foot, you know, factory, and I have 50 people employed. I'm like, really? Just after you just woke up and that all happened? That's cool. But people aren't asking those questions. And then there's obviously what funding's available.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so much. Like had I known all these things in starting it, I probably would have moved more strategically.
Got it.
Right. I think when I started it, because in my mind I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be working, so this is just as I do it. But as it was snowballing, I had to like catch up behind it. I'm like, oh wow, I can't take orders through DM anymore. I got to get like a site.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what's shipping going to cost? You know, how am I packaging these? You know, it's all these little things. These cookies can't break in transit. So it's like, wow, I wasn't ready to think about all this right now. I just love the fact that I was baking cookies and people liked it.
You should, that's what I do. I use my YouTube platform to show the logistics of how I run the business. And I'm very transparent in like how much I lose money and how much I spend on so and so. So just creating another avenue of one day, hopefully like monetization. I know we're running out of time. I just have one more question. Do you skate?
No.
Like ever?
Like ice skate, skateboard?
Just like skating on ice.
Never.
Okay. We're hosting an event, like a free ice like skating event for family if you wanted to come. But maybe we can work together and I can get some cookies for I don't know how many people are going to have, but I'd like to support your business and buy cookies for whoever comes out. So we'll talk about that, but it's going to be April 26th.
April 26th.
If you and the fam want to come, you don't even have to skate. There's bleachers. It's where the Maple Leafs practice. I rented it for an hour and a half. And just inviting close friends and families and stuff like that.
I'm for it.
Even to promote your business if you wanted to and stuff like that. End the podcast with 2 questions. If you can have anybody perform at your wedding, who would it be?
Michael Jackson.
Not Tribe Called Quest?
Michael Jackson? I'm sorry.
Right.
Funny story. When I was 6 and Michael Jackson was performing on a show, I literally ran into the other room and used the scissors and cut a piece of my hair just to get that curl. Right? So if someone can make me do that with a patch of hair,
sold.
Listen, you gotta perform on wherever I can.
If you can invite anybody on this podcast from your circle, who would it be?
From my circle? Oh man. Okay. My best friend Pierre, he runs a business and he's a dad.
What does he do?
Called Crumbs.
Cool.
Yeah, out of Kensington.
Is it a cookie company?
No, it's a Jamaican beef patty, gourmet patties.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Okay, that's sick. I had my first Jamaican beef patty in Jamaica when I went.
That's the best way to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a picky eater.
Well, he could probably bring that experience here for
sure.
Awesome,
man. Well, I appreciate you coming, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Likewise.
That was amazing.
Okay.
Appreciate you, dude.
Thank you.